The world had always known peace, or at least the illusion of it, but that calm was about to shatter in the most unexpected way. It began with a strange signal, something humans had never encountered before. It wasn't a distress call or a message from an unknown space station. No, this was far more disturbing. The signal came from deep space, a pinpoint of energy that shot through the galaxy like a bolt of lightning. There was no way to trace its origin. It appeared without warning, and before anyone knew what was happening, Earth's communication systems were flooded with a message so clear, so unsettling, that it left everyone who heard it frozen in disbelief. The message was simple, chilling, and incredibly direct. Humans warn you. Stay far, far away from Earth or suffer the consequences. At first, it seemed like some kind of joke, a prank maybe, a test to see how Earth's defense systems would respond. But as the hours passed, the gravity of the situation settled in. The message wasn't a simple warning. It was a direct threat. Earth's top scientists, military leaders, and government officials were immediately called in to analyze the transmission. What they uncovered was even more disturbing. The signal, while simple in content, was encoded in a complex quantum pattern that was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. It had been deliberately sent to reach them, a signal that had the power to bypass all security protocols and filter straight into Earth's most secure systems. It was the first sign that Earth wasn't as safe as they thought. There was no source, no trace of where the message had originated. It could have come from anywhere in the galaxy, from a ship that could cloak itself, or from a faraway race capable of sending such an advanced signal. Yet, despite all the uncertainty, the warning was as clear as day. The humans had been warned, and their fate now lay in their hands. The military was the first to react, scrambling to assess the threat. Earth's top generals, some of the most seasoned leaders in the world, debated what to do next. They knew that whoever sent the message had to be powerful, too powerful for Earth's humble defenses. But was it really a threat, or simply a bluff? Could it be that a distant civilization had miscalculated the strength of humanity? After all, to most, Earth was a small, insignificant planet in the grand cosmos, with a primitive civilization that had only recently begun to explore the stars. They quickly called for a council of the highest-ranking scientists and strategists to decipher the technology behind the message. If they were going to face an enemy, they needed to understand what they were up against. The scientists worked day and night, and after endless hours of analyzing the message, they came to a disturbing conclusion. The signal was not just a warning. It was an invitation to a challenge. It wasn't a threat sent by a lone ship or a single faction. No, the message came from an empire, one that spanned across entire galaxies and possessed technologies far beyond anything humans could imagine. The Galactic's Empire. This empire, known for its vast, technologically advanced armies, had been a looming shadow over the galaxy for centuries. They were feared by all who knew of them. Their ships were faster than light, their weapons capable of destroying entire planets. They controlled the galaxy through fear, and the very thought of them caused panic in the hearts of the most powerful species in the known universe. The Galactic's Empire had never shown interest in Earth before. Why would they? To them, Earth was just a backwater planet, its people no different than any other race in the universe. They saw humanity as weak, primitive, and far from being a threat. Earth's scientists and military were just beginning to scrape the surface of space travel. The idea that humanity had developed enough power to challenge such an empire seemed absurd. But this message was clear, and it had sent a chill down the spine of every leader on Earth. The scientists, working together, tried to trace the signal's origin, but every attempt to locate its source was futile. The signal had been designed to be untraceable. It was as if the empire was showing off its superiority, sending a message that said, "We are watching, and we can strike when we choose." But Earth's leaders refused to believe it. How could a race so advanced be interested in such a simple world? Surely this was all a misunderstanding. Maybe they were overreacting. Perhaps the message wasn't intended for Earth at all. But despite their doubts, a sense of unease began to settle in. If the Galactic's empire truly intended to target Earth, it wouldn't be a simple attack. No, it would be a war. And humanity had no idea how to fight such an enemy. Meanwhile, the leaders of the Galactic's empire, sitting in their vast, luxurious command centers light years away, were laughing at the fear that this message had sparked. To them, it was nothing more than a joke. They thought little of the humans, believing them to be too weak and too insignificant to pose any real threat. After all, how could a race of primitive beings, who had only just discovered the power of nuclear weapons, stand a chance against an empire that had conquered countless star systems? Their pride blinded them to the reality of what was coming. The Galactics decided to ignore the warning. It seemed foolish, but in their arrogance, they thought nothing of the humans' technological advancements. They underestimated Earth's ability to protect itself. To them, it was just one more message, one more unimportant planet that would soon fall into their grasp. This decision would prove to be their biggest mistake. Back on Earth, there was no turning back. The scientists and military leaders knew something had to be done. If the Galactics were coming, they would need to be ready. But how could they prepare for an enemy so powerful, so far beyond their understanding? What weapons did they have that could match the firepower of an empire capable of annihilating entire worlds? That question hung heavy in the air as Earth's leaders met in their war rooms, making desperate plans. They couldn't afford to wait any longer. The Galactics were coming, and the first step in defending Earth was understanding what they were up against. But even as they prepared, a feeling of dread filled the air. The humans were not ready for what was about to happen. They had been warned, but they had no idea how deep the enemy's power ran. As Earth's defenses began to prepare for the worst, the Galactic's empire moved forward with their plans, confident that the humans would be no match for them. They believed that they had nothing to fear, but they were wrong. And soon, they would learn just how wrong they were. The stage was set for the most dramatic confrontation the galaxy had ever seen. A clash between the mighty Galactic's empire and a planet they had never taken seriously. And it would be Earth's last stand, a fight for survival against an enemy that had underestimated humanity's will to fight. As the Galactic's empire prepared for their invasion of Earth, they were certain of their victory. The vast fleet, composed of enormous warships and battle cruisers, was on its way. These ships had the ability to obliterate entire planets with ease, and the Empire's resources were practically endless. They believed that Earth, with its primitive technology and underdeveloped military, was no threat to them. To the Galactics, it was nothing more than a small, insignificant planet, just another conquest to add to their growing list. They had faced advanced species before, so the thought of defeating humans seemed almost laughable. But there was one thing the Galactics didn't understand. Humans are not easily underestimated. The invasion began, and the first wave of galactic ships entered Earth's atmosphere. The vast fleet hung in the sky like an army of metal giants, each one bristling with weapons capable of reducing entire cities to rubble. Their mission was clear: land on Earth, subjugate its people, and conquer the planet without hesitation. Their pride in their technological superiority was so great that they didn't even bother to send an advance scout. After all, what could a small, unremarkable planet do to stop them? As the first ships pierced the atmosphere, their sensors failed to detect anything unusual. Everything seemed normal. But as they descended closer to Earth's surface, something changed. The ship's systems began to malfunction. At first, it was just small glitches, nothing to worry about. But soon, the malfunctions became more severe. Their communications went dark. Navigation systems faltered. Weapons systems flickered on and off. The Galactic's fleet, so confident just moments ago, now found itself in chaos. The fleet commanders scrambled to regain control. They couldn't understand it. Their ships were designed to withstand everything: asteroid fields, hostile environments, and electromagnetic storms. They had dealt with countless dangers throughout the galaxy. But now, Earth had become a completely different threat, one they had never expected. Inside the Galactic's flagship, the commanding officer stood frozen as the readouts continued to flash warnings. "What is happening?" he muttered under his breath. The planet below had never been a concern. But now, this strange, unexplained force had the fleet in a state of panic. And then, they found it. A strange energy field surrounding Earth, unlike anything they had ever encountered before. It was as if the planet itself had become a living fortress, and that energy field was its shield. No weapon could break through it. No technology could bypass it. The fleet's systems were being interfered with by this mysterious field, preventing them from locking onto targets, from using their advanced weapons, and even from communicating properly within their own fleet. But what really shocked the Galactics was the source of this energy. It wasn't an alien technology. It wasn't a weapon they had never seen before. No, this energy came from Earth itself. The humans had somehow harnessed a power beyond the Galactic's wildest dreams. It wasn't just an energy field. It was a quantum-based defense grid, so advanced that even the Galactic's most sophisticated AI systems couldn't comprehend it. The humans had been preparing, but they had done so in secret. Years of research, experimentation, and development had gone into creating this quantum weapon. The energy field was just the beginning. As the Galactics struggled to regain control, Earth's military launched their next defense mechanism. AI-powered robots designed to fight back against any form of attack. These robots were unlike anything the Galactics had ever seen. They were fast, calculating, and capable of taking down any invader that dared to land on Earth's surface. But it didn't stop there. As the Galactics struggled to regain their footing, Earth's secret weapon appeared in full force, cloaking devices that made Earth's defense fleet nearly invisible to the invading ships. A swarm of sleek, advanced ships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the Galactic's fleet. The human ships were not as large or as imposing as the Galactic's warships, but they were agile and deadly. They moved with precision, firing energy blasts that ripped through the Galactic's ships with ease. To the Galactics, it felt like they were fighting ghosts. They couldn't see their attackers, couldn't track them, couldn't even pinpoint where the next blast would come from. It was as if the humans had anticipated every move, countering them before they could even make one. The Galactics were caught off guard. Their commanders couldn't fathom how this had happened. How had humans, a species they considered primitive, managed to create such advanced technology? They had thought Earth was an easy conquest, a weak target, but now they were fighting a war on two fronts, one in the sky and one on the ground. On the ground, human forces were ready. The energy field had prevented the Galactics from using their most powerful weapons, leaving them vulnerable to Earth's new technologically advanced soldiers. Armed with plasma rifles, energy shields, and AI-assisted tactical systems, Earth's military had the upper hand. They had trained in secret, building a fighting force that could hold its ground against any invasion. Back on the battlefield, the humans were now fighting with a confidence they had never known before. The Galactics were no longer the unquestioned masters of the universe. The humans had proven that they could fight back, and with each passing moment, they were gaining ground. The Galactics realized, too late, that they had misjudged humanity. They had thought of Earth as nothing more than a small planet, a place to conquer and move on. But Earth had been preparing for this moment. They had built technology in secret, developed weapons that the Galactics couldn't even dream of, and now they were using those very weapons to fight for their survival. The battle wasn't just about Earth's defense. It was about humanity's survival. The invaders were stunned. They had never encountered a species with this level of resourcefulness and resilience. As their fleet continued to struggle against Earth's forces, they could only wonder, how had this happened? How had humans managed to stay hidden for so long, developing technology far beyond anything they could comprehend? The shocking truth was this: the humans were no longer the underdogs. They had become a force to be reckoned with. As the battle continued, Earth's forces struck back harder and faster, overwhelming the invaders with every wave. The Galactic's confidence began to crack, their belief in their own superiority crumbling. They had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, but what they had found was a planet ready to fight for its future. And as the conflict raged on, the Galactics faced a terrifying realization. They had underestimated humanity. And now, they were about to pay the price. In those first few hours of the battle, everything had changed. Earth's power was no longer a mystery. The world had proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that it was capable of defending itself. The Galactics were no longer the hunters. They were the prey. And as the battle lines formed, one thing was clear. Humanity was no longer the weak, primitive species the Galactics had thought them to be. The tables had turned, and the Galactics would never be the same. The battle for Earth had now reached its most intense phase. The Galactics, shaken but not broken, were determined to crush humanity once and for all. After underestimating the power of Earth's defense systems, they had no choice but to bring their full military might to bear. Their fleet was massive, a terrifying force that spanned the skies like a sea of metal. The atmosphere shimmered with the presence of advanced alien technology. But this time, the humans were ready. The first wave of attack came in the form of orbital bombardments. The Galactic's warships fired lasers and plasma missiles from space, aimed at strategic locations on Earth. Cities and military bases were targeted, and the sky was set ablaze with explosions. The ground shook as the energy beams hit, leveling buildings and sending shockwaves through the streets. For a moment, it seemed as if the Earth was going to succumb to the overwhelming firepower of the Galactics. But the humans weren't helpless. They had prepared for this. As the first bombs rained down, Earth's defense systems activated. Massive energy shields rose up, shimmering like a protective wall. The shields absorbed most of the blasts, redirecting the energy away from the planet. What the Galactics hadn't anticipated was Earth's ability to adapt quickly. AI-controlled fighter jets, sleek and fast, took to the skies, engaging the Galactic ships in a dogfight that shook the heavens. These fighters were armed with advanced laser weapons and energy cannons that tore through the invaders' ships like a hot knife through butter. The Galactics had never seen such speed or precision before, and their fleets began to falter. As Earth's forces rallied, they unleashed their most devastating weapon, cloaking technology. Ships and ground units, previously visible to the Galactics, suddenly vanished from sight. The Galactics' tracking systems couldn't keep up with the sudden disappearance of Earth's forces. The humans struck from the shadows, hitting the Galactics where they least expected it. Each strike was a surprise, each battle a new nightmare for the invaders. The Galactics were confused, desperate, and more than a little afraid. They tried to counter the attacks, but Earth's AI-powered defense systems and human ingenuity kept them on the back foot. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Galactic's empire was being outmatched by a species they had deemed insignificant, but they refused to accept defeat. Their pride was their downfall. In the midst of this chaos, a heroic figure rose. Bonner was one of Earth's elite soldiers, a man who had been trained for this very moment. He and his team were given a critical mission: infiltrate one of the Galactic's flagship vessels and disable its weapons systems. The stakes were high. If they succeeded, they could turn the tide of the battle. But if they failed, the Galactics would have a clear path to Earth's heart. Bonner and his team knew the risks. They boarded one of Earth's most advanced stealth ships, cloaked from the Galactic sensors, and flew toward the enemy flagship. The journey was perilous, and every second was a race against time. Bonner's heart pounded as he thought of the mission's importance. If they could take down the flagship, it would be a massive blow to the Galactic strategy, crippling their ability to fight. As the team approached the massive alien ship, they were met with resistance. Galactic soldiers flooded the corridors, their weapons firing with deadly precision. The battle inside the flagship was brutal. Bonner and his team fought with everything they had, using their training, advanced weapons, and quick thinking to push forward. The air was thick with smoke, and the sounds of explosions filled every corner. Bonner's team was relentless, moving quickly and decisively, cutting through the enemy ranks. But the further they advanced, the more they realized how difficult the task ahead of them was. They reached the heart of the ship, where the weapons systems were housed, but the moment they breached the final door, disaster struck. A huge explosion rocked the room, sending Bonner and his team flying. The enemy had anticipated their move, and now the odds were stacked against them. As the smoke cleared, Bonner found himself face to face with the Galactic's highest-ranking officer. The officer raised his weapon, but Bonner was quicker. With a swift motion, he fired, taking down the officer and buying his team just enough time to complete the mission. However, Bonner knew that they couldn't stay long. The flagship's security systems were now fully activated, and reinforcements were on the way. Bonner and his team had achieved their objective. They had disabled the flagship's weapons systems, but they were trapped, with no way out. In that moment, Bonner made a decision. He knew that the mission was more important than his own survival. He ordered his team to escape while he stayed behind to hold off the Galactics. With one final defiant look, Bonner charged toward the enemy. Using every ounce of strength and skill, he had to fight off the advancing soldiers. He fought with the ferocity of a man who had nothing left to lose, using his body as a shield to protect his comrades' escape. As Bonner's team made their way back to their ship, they could hear the distant sounds of his final stand. The air was thick with the sense of loss and determination. Bonner had sacrificed himself for the greater good, and his death would not be in vain. His team made it back to Earth, bringing the news of his heroism with them. Bonner's name would live on, a symbol of the courage and strength of humanity in the face of overwhelming odds. Back on Earth, the battle continued. The Galactics, now without their flagship's firepower, began to lose their momentum. Earth's forces, empowered by Bonner's sacrifice, fought harder than ever. With each passing hour, the Galactics' grip on the planet weakened. The tides were turning, and the humans were starting to believe that they could win this war. But the true cost of the battle was becoming clear. The fight had taken a heavy toll. The loss of Bonner and many other soldiers weighed heavily on everyone. But in their hearts, they knew that they were fighting for something much greater than themselves. They were fighting for their homes, their families, and their very survival. Bonner's death became a rallying cry for Earth's forces. His sacrifice proved that humanity was capable of great things. The Galactics, for all their advanced technology and military might, were nothing in the face of the human spirit. With the loss of their flagship and the determination of Earth's defenders, the Galactics' once unshakable empire was crumbling. In the heat of battle, Bonner had proven that even in the face of certain death, humanity's resolve was stronger than any alien force. And as the fight raged on, it became clear that Earth was not just a planet to be conquered. It was a force to be reckoned with. The battle for Earth had become a desperate struggle for survival. The Galactics, relentless in their pursuit of domination, launched wave after wave of attacks, determined to break humanity's resolve. But the humans weren't about to give up. Each attack from the enemy only seemed to fuel their determination. They had no choice but to fight with everything they had, against the odds, against a superior enemy. And while the Galactics' advanced technology made them formidable, they underestimated one thing: the spirit of humanity. As the conflict raged on, Earth's leaders and military generals gathered in war rooms, surrounded by maps and screens. They were tired, but they refused to let fatigue get in the way. Each loss, each casualty, made them more resolute to defeat the invaders. The human resistance had to rely on their wits and resourcefulness. While the Galactics had the numbers and the power, the humans had something far more important: the will to survive. Human commanders and strategists had learned from each battle. They analyzed the Galactics' tactics, pinpointing weaknesses in their massive war machines. Earth's forces had suffered significant losses, but they were not yet defeated. They still had one advantage the Galactics couldn't predict: their hidden technologies, technologies that had been kept secret from the enemy. Human leaders knew that time was running out. They had to act quickly, and they had to act decisively. The Galactics were closing in on Earth's major cities, and the human forces were stretched thin. But deep within the hidden facilities beneath the Earth's surface, military scientists had been working on the ultimate weapon: quantum energy manipulation. This was a technology so advanced that it was beyond the comprehension of the Galactics. It was Earth's last card, the game changer they had been hoping to unleash. Using their cloaking technology, humans were able to hide their movements from the Galactics. They moved in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. As the Galactics' fleet approached the Earth's atmosphere, they had no idea what awaited them. The humans had perfected their quantum energy manipulation, and now it was time to put it into action. The attack was a masterpiece of strategy and precision. As the Galactic ships entered the atmosphere, the humans launched their counterattack. Ships appeared out of nowhere, cloaked from the enemy sensors, striking with deadly accuracy. The Galactics were caught off guard, unable to react fast enough to the sudden onslaught. But this was just the beginning. The true weapon, the quantum energy manipulation, was about to make its debut. In the heart of Earth's military command center, the final command was given. The ultimate weapon was activated. A pulse of energy, unlike anything the Galactics had ever seen, shot into the sky. The energy waves spread across the atmosphere, interacting with the Galactic ships, disrupting their systems and rendering their shields useless. The Galactic ships, which had been invincible moments ago, were now vulnerable, their weapons useless against the human onslaught. The Galactics didn't know what hit them. They had no understanding of quantum energy, and they couldn't comprehend the sheer power it unleashed. The humans had turned their greatest weakness into their most powerful advantage. The energy wave reached the flagship, the pride of the Galactic's fleet. In an instant, it was engulfed in the pulse, its systems failing one by one. The once dominant ship, feared by all who had encountered it, was now nothing more than a floating hulk. The Galactics were thrown into chaos. They had no backup plan, no contingency for something so devastating. Their fleet was falling apart, and their soldiers, once so confident, were now struggling to maintain their composure. The tables had turned, but the cost had been high. Earth's forces had poured everything into this counterattack, and while it had been successful, they were not out of danger yet. As the Galactics reeled from the blow, the human forces launched a full-scale attack. AI-controlled fighters, armed with advanced weaponry, dove into the fray. The skies were filled with explosions as fighter jets streaked past, taking down Galactic's warships with deadly precision. The ground forces, using cloaking devices and specialized energy weapons, fought with unparalleled skill, breaking through the Galactic's defenses. The human resistance had become a force the Galactics could no longer ignore. Yet, in the midst of this victory, the emotional weight of the battle hung heavy. The loss of so many lives weighed on the hearts of Earth's leaders and soldiers alike. The victory had come at a cost, and the memory of fallen heroes, like Bonner, was never far from their minds. His sacrifice had inspired them, but it had also reminded them of the brutal reality of war. As Earth's forces continued to press forward, they realized that the Galactics were not going to surrender easily. The Galactics' pride and arrogance ran deep, and they would not go down without a fight. But with each passing hour, Earth's forces were gaining ground. The invaders were no longer the unstoppable force they had once been. The humans had proven that with unity, determination, and ingenuity, they could stand up to the greatest threat the galaxy had ever seen. The fight was far from over, but humanity's resolve was unshakable. They had faced the impossible and come out on top. They had pushed the Galactics to the brink of defeat, but they knew that the war was far from won. The Galactics still had vast fleets scattered across the stars, and they would not simply give up. But the humans now knew something the invaders didn't. They had the power to change the course of this war. They had the power to defend their planet, to fight back against the darkness that threatened to consume them. And so, with renewed hope and determination, the humans prepared for the next stage of the battle. The stakes had never been higher, and the path ahead was fraught with danger. But they were no longer the underdogs. They were the masters of their fate, and they would fight to the last breath to protect their home. The struggle for survival had only just begun, and Earth's defenders were ready for whatever came next. The Galactics, once so confident in their superiority, finally began to understand the magnitude of their mistake. They had underestimated humanity, thinking that their advanced technology and vast fleets would make Earth an easy target. But the humans had proven them wrong. What started as an invasion to conquer the planet had turned into a fight for survival, a battle humanity was unwilling to lose. Now, as the war neared its final stage, the Galactics knew that their defeat was inevitable. But they were not going to surrender easily. They would fight to the last soldier, determined to go down swinging. The last battle between the human forces and the Galactics was nothing short of legendary. The atmosphere was charged with tension, each side knowing that this would decide the fate of Earth. It was the culmination of years of bloodshed, sacrifices, and strategic brilliance. The battlefield was set. Human soldiers, weary but unbroken, faced off against the relentless, highly advanced Galactics. The odds were still stacked against the humans, but their resolve was stronger than ever. The final showdown had begun. The battle erupted with a fury that shook the heavens. On the ground, soldiers clashed in close-quarters combat, their weapons flashing in the dim light of the battlefield. Earth's soldiers, though outnumbered, fought with a fierceness that stunned the Galactics. They had learned from each encounter, becoming more adept at using their environment and advanced technology to counter the alien invaders. Cloaking devices, once a mystery to the Galactics, were now a crucial part of the human strategy. Soldiers disappeared into thin air, only to reappear behind enemy lines, striking with deadly precision. The Galactics had no idea how to combat these unpredictable tactics. Meanwhile, in the skies above, the battle raged on as AI-controlled fighter jets swarmed the Galactics' fleet. Laser blasts and explosions lit up the sky as human forces, using their superior knowledge of Earth's atmosphere, gained the upper hand. The Galactic ships, once a symbol of unstoppable power, now found themselves outmaneuvered and outclassed. The humans had unlocked new levels of combat efficiency, using their AI and advanced weaponry to dismantle the alien armada piece by piece. But even as the humans fought back with everything they had, the Galactics weren't about to go down without a fight. They unleashed their full might in a last-ditch effort to crush the resistance. Laser cannons fired from every direction, and massive war machines stomped across the battlefield, intent on annihilating everything in their path. The sounds of destruction were deafening, and the sky was filled with the smoke of burning ships and crumbling structures. But despite the chaos, the human forces remained steadfast. They had come too far to let the Galactics win now. The battle for Earth had become more than just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of humanity. Every soldier, every civilian, had a stake in this fight. The sacrifices made along the way were not in vain. The memories of fallen heroes like Bonner were etched into the hearts of every person who stood on that battlefield. They fought not just for themselves, but for those who had given their lives for this moment. Among the chaos, the emotional weight of the battle was undeniable. The human forces, battered and bruised, knew that this was their last chance. They had already lost so much. So many good men and women had fallen in the fight. But their spirits were unbroken. The memory of Bonner's sacrifice inspired them to keep going, to fight harder, to hold on just a little longer. His squad had given their lives to buy the humans time, and now it was time to make their sacrifice count. As the battle raged on, the final group of human warriors made their move. Led by General Raylan, a seasoned commander who had lost everything in this war, they pushed forward with unwavering determination. They had a plan, a bold and dangerous plan. Using the advanced quantum energy weapons they had developed, they would make a final push to destroy the heart of the Galactic's invasion force, their flagship. If they could take down the flagship, the rest of the Galactic's fleet would fall apart. The mission was risky, and the odds were slim. But they had no other choice. General Rylan and his team, along with the remaining forces, launched a full-scale assault on the flagship. The human forces, using every tactic they had learned over the course of the war, stormed the alien ship, fighting their way through corridors filled with hostile soldiers. The sounds of gunfire and explosions echoed through the halls as the humans pressed forward, their resolve unyielding. The final push was brutal. The humans fought with every ounce of strength they had left, knowing that this was the moment that would decide everything. They were determined to end the war, to bring an end to the invasion that had torn their world apart. As they reached the heart of the flagship, they planted the quantum energy charges that would obliterate the ship from the inside out. The countdown began, and the human soldiers held their ground, fighting off the Galactics in a desperate final stand. As the countdown reached its final seconds, the flagship erupted in a massive explosion. The shockwave was felt across the battlefield, and the Galactic's forces staggered as their command ship was destroyed. The human forces, battered and exhausted, looked on as the mighty vessel disintegrated in a brilliant burst of light. It was a victory, but a bittersweet one. The cost had been unimaginable. So many lives had been lost along the way, and the emotional toll of the war weighed heavily on the survivors. But in that moment, humanity had achieved the impossible. They had defeated the Galactics, pushed back the invasion, and saved their planet from destruction. The Galactics, who had once considered humanity a primitive race, had been brought to their knees by the very species they had sought to destroy. The tables had turned, and the humans had emerged victorious. The battle for Earth was over, but the war had taken its toll. As the dust settled, and the survivors gathered to mourn their fallen comrades, they knew that the victory came with a heavy price. The memories of the lost soldiers, like Bonner, would never fade. They had given their lives for the future of humanity, and their sacrifice would never be forgotten. In the aftermath of the war, Earth's leaders began to rebuild. The scars of the conflict were deep, but humanity had proven that they could survive, that they could fight back against even the most advanced enemies. The war had changed them, but it had also united them in ways they had never imagined. They had faced the darkness and come out victorious. Now, they would rebuild, stronger and more united than ever before. The last stand had been won, but the fight for humanity's future was just beginning. The survivors knew that they would never forget the lessons of the war. They had seen what was possible when they fought together, when they refused to give up. The Galactics might have been defeated, but the universe was vast, and humanity's journey had only just begun. With their victory, they had secured their place among the stars, and they would fight, if necessary, to protect it. After the intense battle, the Galactic's empire, broken and defeated, was forced to surrender. It was an unimaginable turn of events. The once mighty alien empire, which had thought of Earth as nothing more than a tiny, insignificant speck in the galaxy, now found itself in the position of pleading for peace. The humans had done what no one had thought possible. They had resisted the most technologically advanced empire in the galaxy and emerged victorious. The Galactics were forced to face the harsh reality that they had underestimated humanity, and now they had no choice but to come to the table for a peace treaty. The terms were simple but powerful. Earth would decide the fate of the galaxy moving forward. The Galactics had no say in the matter. They had lost, and they had to live with the consequences. The humans, in contrast, were more than willing to show mercy. After all, they had learned from their past, from the sacrifices they had made. But they had also learned something else. The strength they now possessed was not to be taken lightly. The power that Earth had unlocked, from their cloaking technology to the mysterious quantum energy manipulation, was something no empire in the galaxy could ignore. It was a power that could change the balance of the entire galaxy. As the treaty was signed, the Galactics were forced to acknowledge that humanity was no longer just a backwater planet. They were no longer just survivors of an invasion. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Earth had proven its might and its will to defend itself, and it had done so with a strength and intelligence that none of the galactic empires had anticipated. The Galactics now realized that the human race had something they had never seen before: the ability to adapt, to learn, and to rise up against impossible odds. For the humans, the peace treaty was not just a moment of triumph. It was a realization of their new place in the galaxy. No longer would they be seen as weak or insignificant. Earth had now positioned itself as a superpower, one whose influence stretched across the stars. The advanced technology they had developed during the war, once kept secret, was now a clear message to the entire galaxy. Earth had become a force to be reckoned with, and its power would no longer be underestimated. The galaxy's leaders, once so certain of their superiority, now looked at Earth with fear and respect. The Galactics, whose leaders had once ruled over the stars with an iron fist, now found themselves in the role of subordinates, answering to the humans. Their once proud fleets were reduced to a mere shadow of their former glory. The humans, armed with their advanced technologies, now held the upper hand in every negotiation, every decision that shaped the future of the galaxy. But the humans, while victorious, knew that this was only the beginning. They had won the war, but they had also gained something far more important: a place at the table in the galactic community. No longer would Earth be ignored or overlooked. The other empires and races, who had once considered humanity weak, now realized that Earth's strength was something they could no longer ignore. They were forced to acknowledge the humans' power, and that changed everything. With Earth now established as a galactic superpower, its leaders set their sights on the future. The peace treaty was only the first step in a long journey. Humanity, after all, had not fought just for survival. They had fought for something bigger: the chance to shape their own future, to secure their place among the stars. And now, they had that chance. In the months that followed, Earth began to rebuild. The scars of the war were still fresh, and the pain of the sacrifices made was still felt by many. But the people of Earth were resilient. They had fought hard for this moment, and they were not going to let it slip away. The Earth that had once been on the brink of destruction was now on the path to becoming a leader in the galaxy. The people were determined to use their newfound power for good, to ensure that their future, and the future of the galaxy, would be one of peace and prosperity. The once weak nations of Earth, now united under a single banner, began to work together as never before. They shared knowledge, resources, and technology, each nation contributing to the greater good of humanity. The result was a new, more powerful Earth, a planet that was no longer divided by petty differences, but united in its quest for greatness. But as Earth began to rise, the rest of the galaxy watched closely. The other empires, once so confident in their dominance, now had to reckon with the fact that Earth had become the new power in the galaxy, and that power came with a message. If you were not willing to cooperate, if you were not willing to join Earth in this new era of peace, you would be left behind. The galaxy had changed forever, and those who refused to acknowledge Earth's newfound position would soon find themselves on the wrong side of history. The peace treaty with the Galactics was just the beginning. Earth's leaders now began to set their sights on the stars. They had already made alliances with other alien races who had come to respect humanity's strength. They knew that there were other empires out there, waiting to test their power. But Earth was ready. They had seen what the galaxy could throw at them, and they had proven that they could withstand it. The humans were not just survivors. They were conquerors in their own right. In time, Earth became the center of galactic diplomacy, with leaders from all corners of the galaxy traveling to Earth to seek counsel and forge alliances. The once feared human race now stood at the top of the galactic hierarchy, their influence spreading far and wide. The message was clear: Earth was no longer just a planet. It was the heart of a new galactic order, and anyone who dared to challenge that order would have to answer to humanity. As Earth's power grew, so did its sense of responsibility. The people of Earth knew that their victory came with a great burden. They were not just the protectors of their own planet anymore. They were the protectors of the galaxy. The strength they had gained from their struggle would now be used to ensure that no other civilization would ever have to suffer the same fate they had. They would use their technology, their knowledge, and their resolve to build a better future for all sentient beings in the galaxy. The final twist in this story came not with the fall of the Galactics, but with the realization that humanity had become more than just a force to be reckoned with. They had become the guardians of the galaxy, the leaders who would guide the future of the universe. The message they sent was clear. The rise of Earth was not just the rise of a single planet. It was the rise of a new age in the galaxy, one where humanity would lead, and everyone else would either follow or fall. With Earth now firmly established as a galactic superpower, the future seemed brighter than ever. The struggles of the past had led to this moment, and the sacrifices of the many would ensure that the future would be one of peace, prosperity, and strength. The galaxy would never be the same again, and Earth's victory had become the ultimate message to anyone who dared to challenge them. The dawn of a new era had begun, and humanity stood at the helm, ready to steer the galaxy into a future where they would never be underestimated again. Below, on Earth's surface, no one was aware of the destruction taking place above. People went about their day, working, studying, relaxing. Life went on as usual, but the atmosphere had already begun to tear apart. High above, the cloaked ships dropped their payload. The Warbeasts, monstrous creatures that were engineered for one thing, destruction, were released into the Earth's atmosphere. They fell like meteors, crashing into cities, forests, and oceans. The first sign of their arrival was a strange tremor that shook the ground. Buildings swayed, and windows shattered. At first, people thought it was an earthquake, but the tremors only intensified. The sky darkened as the alien ships finally decloaked, revealing their true nature. From the sky, enormous creatures, mutant warbeasts, descended onto Earth. They were everything the Galactic Empire had promised. Terrifying, massive, and relentless. The warbeasts immediately began to wreak havoc. They were not just animals. They were living weapons, designed to kill and destroy without mercy. Their claws ripped through steel and concrete, their teeth shattered walls, and their roars filled the air as they tore through anything in their path. Earth's defense systems were no match for the creatures. The military scrambled to respond, but they were overwhelmed from the start. Captain Benner, a seasoned military officer, was one of the first to witness the chaos. He had been in charge of Earth's new defense initiative, designed to protect the planet from alien threats. But even with all their advanced technology, Earth was ill-prepared for this kind of attack. The warbeasts were too powerful, too fast, and too deadly. Benner's team was one of the first units deployed to fight back. They fired everything they had: missiles, energy weapons, and even experimental drones. But nothing worked. The warbeasts shrugged off their attacks as if they were nothing more than insects swatting at them. The city was in ruins, and the human forces were in full retreat. It seemed that all hope was lost. But then, a faint signal came through the chaos. A message from the astronaut. His transmission had been weak, but it was enough to be decoded by Earth's military command. The message revealed the truth. The creatures were not just random aliens. They were controlled by a far more dangerous force: the Galactic Empire. And worse, this was just the beginning. The Empire's fleet was approaching Earth, hidden in the depths of space. The warbeasts were merely the first wave. The Empire's ultimate goal was the complete destruction of Earth, to eliminate humanity before they could become a threat to their reign. The message sent shockwaves through the command centers on Earth. The realization hit like a ton of bricks. Humanity was under attack by an enemy they couldn't see, and they had no idea how to stop it. As the first wave of warbeasts continued their rampage, Humanity's defenses were crumbling. Cities were burning, military bases were falling, and the very foundation of Earth's civilization was being destroyed. The planet's inhabitants were being pushed to the brink of annihilation, and there was no hope in sight. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was a glimmer of something else, something that humans had in abundance: determination. Captain Benner, now realizing the true nature of the threat, gathered his team for one final stand. They would not go down without a fight. But as they prepared for the inevitable battle, they knew that it would take everything they had, and more, to defeat the invaders. The Warbeasts were only the beginning. And as the sky above Earth continued to tear apart, signaling the arrival of even more destruction, one question remained: would humanity survive this onslaught, or would this be the end of their story? The story had only just begun, but the stakes were higher than ever before. The atmosphere over Earth had become increasingly unstable. As the cloaked ships of the Galactic Empire descended upon the planet, their massive forms remained hidden from human eyes, invisible to all the monitoring systems on Earth. High above the clouds, the ships glided silently, a silent harbinger of destruction. It was only when the ships reached the upper layers of the atmosphere that their cloaking technology began to fail, revealing their true nature. Massive and imposing, the fleet hovered ominously over Earth, like vultures preparing to strike. The sun rose over Earth, casting golden rays across the vast cities, the bustling streets, and the vast fields. People woke up to the familiar hum of their daily lives, unknowing that their world was about to change forever. Across the planet, life seemed to be flourishing. Cities buzzed with activity, engineers were working on groundbreaking projects, and scientists were making new discoveries about the world and the universe. Technology had advanced to a point where artificial intelligence, advanced robotics, and space exploration were no longer dreams. They were realities. The human race had become a force to be reckoned with their influence expanding beyond Earth's atmosphere. But none of this mattered to the Galactic Empire, which had been watching from afar. High above Earth, in the cold vastness of space, a small group of alien ships hovered in the dark, hidden by their advanced cloaking devices. The Galactic Empire had been keeping a close eye on humanity's rapid technological advancements, something that had alarmed them greatly. The Empire's leaders feared that humans, with their boundless potential and insatiable curiosity, might one day challenge their authority and pose a threat to their control over the galaxy. Their fear was not unwarranted. The humans had already begun to explore space, developing faster than light travel, and their military technology was advancing at an unprecedented rate. It was only a matter of time before they became a real danger to the Empire's dominance. The decision was made in the cold chambers of the Empire's War Council. Earth needed to be neutralized, not through a traditional invasion, but with something far more sinister. The Empire had long ago developed the ultimate weapon: genetically engineered mutant Warbeasts, creatures designed for one purpose: destruction. These beasts were massive, terrifying, and nearly indestructible. They could tear through cities, crush entire armies, and cause mass chaos in ways that no conventional weapon could. The orders were clear. The Warbeasts would be dropped onto Earth. It was a covert strike, meant to catch the humans off guard. The Galactic Empire's forces, cloaked and hidden in deep space, began their journey towards Earth. But as the ships approached the planet, something unexpected happened. Down below, a lone astronaut stationed at a deep space observatory was scanning the skies, monitoring space traffic. He had no idea that this seemingly routine task would lead to the discovery of a threat unlike anything Earth had ever faced. His instruments beeped erratically as a strange energy pulse appeared on his radar. At first, it was subtle, just a flicker on the screen. But as he focused his attention on the anomaly, it grew stronger. His heart began to race as the signal became more defined. He quickly realized that it wasn't a typical space phenomenon. This was something purposeful, something deliberate. His first instinct was to send a warning, but as he prepared to make the transmission, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The pulse wasn't coming from a natural source. It was coming from somewhere deep in space, somewhere far beyond any known territory. He immediately began to scan for more information, but his systems were overwhelmed with a surge of interference. Whatever was coming, it was being cloaked. The pulse was a signal, a warning of the invasion to come. In the cold expanse of space, the cloaked ships of the Galactic Empire were closing in on Earth. Inside their heavily fortified command center, the Empire's generals were watching with cold, calculating eyes. They knew that Earth's defenses, while impressive, were no match for the Warbeasts they had unleashed. The creatures were unstoppable. No army, no technology, nothing could stand in their way. It was the perfect plan, one that would ensure humanity's extinction without the Empire ever having to expose itself. Back on Earth, the first signs of the invasion were met with confusion. The astronaut, now in full panic mode, tried desperately to send out a warning. But before he could relay any information, something catastrophic happened. A powerful shockwave, unlike anything he had ever felt, struck his observatory. The station shook violently, and the lights flickered. He looked out the window just in time to see his satellite array disintegrate in a burst of energy. A wave of heat and energy engulfed the station, knocking out power and communications. The astronaut's screen went blank, his instruments fried beyond repair. He was left in the dark, unable to warn Earth of the incoming disaster. The shockwave had been just the first sign. Something much larger was coming, and it was only a matter of time before the planet would feel its full force.